Hi guys, my name is Desi Kadra and welcome to my podcast, Bridging the Realm. This live stream is part of this month's theme that I've been focusing on to do with consciousness, life after death, the invisible realm. And this is following on from my fundraiser that I've launched earlier this month on a documentary that I'm working on, which is called Beyond the Veil, and it explores consciousness and life after death. So if you're interested in checking this out, then you can click on the link in the description in the video. And today, I'm super excited to present to you my guest for today. I have known her work for just over a year now, and I have been absolutely mind blown by the level of just genius that she is. I can't wait for you guys to just share the space with me. If you have any questions, feel free to put them in the comments below. We'll be taking some questions from the audience if anyone has anything that they want to ask. Otherwise, we'll just get on with it. So, my guest name is Emmie from Emmie Evolving. Emmie is an energy worker and a very powerful clairvoyant, clairsentient, claircognizant, clair-everything, basically. So her work deals with biospiritual attunement, and she often uses biospiritual techniques from the energetic system that she created called Kokoro 33 to facilitate the client's soul and self-healing at a subatomic level. She works really closely with her clients to identify the root causation of any issue, whether it's spiritual, physical, emotional, mental, and addresses it at a very deep level to catalyze true healing for the person. I've worked closely with Emmie for the last year, and personally myself, I've seen just so many changes just from being exposed to her work, and just the level of originality. You know, she's created her own work by mixing a lot of different types of healing, energetic healings, with a lot of scientific basis as well. So for all of you science nerds who like to have some sort of scientific basis and everything to do with energy, then this will also be for you. So without further ado, Emmie, welcome to Bridging the Realm. Thank you so much for being here.
Hi, thank you for having me. Gosh, you have me blushing. I'm like, I really am all that.
You
It's
are, oh my God. Yeah.
amazing here with you. Seeing your growth, seeing the ripening of your personal understanding of your journey, the things that you're going through. It's truly an honor for me to be able to witness and travel even just a little bit of your journey with you. Thank you for that.
Oh, thank you. No, thank you. And your work has definitely been a part of my growth as well. And just like understanding how everything works and being able to, see how you work and how you do everything just really has really exposed me to this energetic and invisible realm, which is why I called our session today the invisible realm, because it's really such a good exposure to how everything works on an energetic level. And I'm really obsessed with that. I really want to kind of understand how it all works. And I know obviously you were born with these abilities, so I can't wait to ask you all these questions I've wanted to ask you for such a long time, but I just haven't had the chance to. So yeah, I think this will be really, really fun. But before we get started, let's talk about the current energies. I know you literally just did a few live videos on your YouTube channel, Emmie Evolving, which again is incredible. So I suggest everyone watching to join the channel. Tell me a bit about the recent energies, because there's been so much happening this year altogether in 2019, but now with Scorpio season and Mercury retrograde, so everyone who's kind of into the astrology stuff knows about this. But tell me what you've been feeling.
Oh my God, all over the place. It's literally all over the place. Emotions swinging like a wrecking ball from the left to the right. We have all had like a really tumultuous year, every single last one of us. So many of us have experienced different, varying levels of loss, from losing loved ones, losing jobs, relationships, housing, just all sorts of loss. And it's very easy for us to become very negative. It's very easy for us to begin taking on that victim mentality of, why are these things being done to me? Why am I being punished? And in reality, what's actually going on is you're not being punished. your soul is clearing the way because of planetary alignments, which I'm not too well versed in planetary alignment. You have to go to unified astrology for that, okay? But what I've learned from Alex from Unified Astrology, we went into a phase where Saturn was in retrograde. Saturn is known as the Lord of Karma. And so all of these past life, early life circumstance has been rising up. And now that Saturn's gone direct, and right after he goes direct, we enter Mercury retrograde in Scorpio. Like, so even more depth, a lot of emotions. Scorpios aren't very good at expressing themselves. They're very deeply hidden within themselves. And so this is really an opportunity for us to begin sifting through what we have hidden in the trenches of our hearts and minds, and really making sense of the things we've gone through in life. The things that we go through are the very things that help to shape who we are, how we process, the ways in which we cope. And all of those factors really determine what we do with our manifestation ability. And so now everyone's kind of beginning to be almost forced awake. Even those who aren't into this type of subject matter, they're experiencing ascension symptoms. It's very interesting to watch it. I hate to laugh, but it's like, see, y'all thought I was making this up. I'm not.
What are some of the ascension symptoms that people might be noticing in themselves? What would you describe as?
So primarily in a social way, your first massive ascension cycle, because you'll cycle through your whole life. You'll have periods where you're actively cycling and periods where, you know, you get a little bit of rest and things are dormant. So in an active cycle, especially for your first major one, you're going to experience a lot of isolation. It's not necessarily that there's drama going on, that you started something. It's more of a sense of like, suddenly everyone's acting like you don't exist. No one's calling, no one's inviting you. And then you're feeling very left out. Well, that is usually paired along with this growing sense that you don't fit in anyways, that you suddenly can't relate to the people that you were once very close to. So those are some of the most common symptoms. Sleep and eating patterns often change. Either you'll sleep a lot more or you just can't sleep. You'll eat a lot more or you just can't eat. It's like a involuntary fasting. Don't worry, listen to your body. If you need to rest, rest. If you can't sleep, find something productive to do. If you can't stop eating, be gentle with yourself. Make sure what you're eating is something that's very nutrient dense, not just empty calories. Also, some of the other common symptoms, ringing in the ears. Random, like your eyeballs are swinging and rocking in their sockets. Like, what is that? Also, a lot of people are experiencing headaches. Nothing too severe, but just like achiness, especially in the front, the forehead area. Post-nasal drip as your third eye is being purged and cleared. A lot of people very often experience flu-like symptoms with no fever. They'll also experience body aches where when your energy is being cleared, sometimes you'll ache as though you worked out. Those are all very common symptoms of ascension.
Yeah, so essentially it's pretty much ascension is basically our body, physical, mental, emotional, spiritual bodies changing to allow for this new type of energy to come in. Is that right?
Yeah. Yes. Ascension, what I now understand it to be, it's not necessarily us rising up, like rising to an enlightened state. It's more of the deconstruction of our preconceived notions of who we think we are. Our reality has changed. It's shifted in such a way that makes it very clear who is in alignment with our growth, our personal frequency, and who isn't. Those who are not in alignment have a tendency to fall away. And again, it's not due to drama and fighting. Sometimes if you're not in alignment, they just quietly disappear. You guys no longer have contact. And it's just something you just notice, like, oh, I haven't spoken to so-and-so in a long time. What happened? But you know, it's just a realigning of everything and almost like a controlled demolition of your life. And the body, the physical body definitely feels that. you know, definitely feels that.
Yeah, that's kind of what it's felt like with me. Yeah, I mean, I've had a lot of pressure, like especially around the head in this sort of area here, all around the eyes. I've had like um periods of insomnia almost, and it's just like, oh my god, what's going on? But yeah, like hearing you explain it, like talk about it in other people as well, it makes a lot of sense that it's kind of there's other things going on rather than just what we're seeing here. Like, yeah.
Yeah, totally.
God, all right. Well, hopefully we'll survive this. We'll see. But yeah, so I've always wanted to ask you about how everything began for you. I know you've spoken a little bit about it and how when you were young, you started, you know, seeing that you're different from others, and then you could see things that other people or other kids around you couldn't see. But can you kind of go into detail and tell me exactly from what you remember, what was it? How did everything start for you?
I have just always been a very different kind of child. Um, if I was being raised right now in the way society is, I would have so many different labels placed on me. Opposition defiant, whatever that syndrome is. You just can't tell me what to do. You can reason with me. You can tell me, okay, I need you to comply because this and this, and then, okay, well, yeah, that makes sense, I'll go ahead and do it, I'll say yes. But you know, if you're going to tell me you're doing this because I said so, oh, but yeah, no, I'm not. And I mean, that's me as a child, and I've always just seen everything differently. I never really had a childhood. I never understood children my age. I didn't understand why they didn't listen just for the sake of not listening, why they didn't take other people's needs into consideration. I've just kind of always been who I am right now, but in varying degrees. So I would experience periods of extreme fear. Having been raised very religious, devoutly religious, it did not leave much space for me to explore my experiences. There was, you know, based off of the way I was raised, there was only one explanation for the things that I was experiencing: demons. And so I learned to exist in such a paralyzing, crippling state of fear, consistent, perpetual fear. And after a certain amount of time, I began to really deny all of these things I was experiencing. I learned to be very quiet about my experiences. I began to feel really elevated levels of shame, self-loathing, because I figured I was evil in some way. For me to be able to see these not so pretty things and experience these things, it's because God didn't love me. And it took a very long time for me to really grasp, I'm not being punished, I'm being prepared for something. And it was only after I allowed myself to lose my temper with the very things that I was programmed to be afraid of, that I reclaimed much of my power that had always been there, but I had built walls around it and, you know, hidden it away because it was taboo. And I mean, I've just experienced a tremendous amount of paranormal things my entire life, tremendous amount. And there were no people around me that could help me understand what was going on. You know, as a matter of fact, when I want to say it was 20, I had a I had a breakdown because it really heightened. I was getting attacked, demonic attacks very often. Marks on my body, shoved down the stairs. I've had my lashes ripped out. I've had a bloody lip. Like I got hit in the middle of the night. No one hit me, and you know, my siblings were afraid. And so just I remember I was 20. This was near my breaking point. Um, I woke up to one of my older siblings splashing holy water on me at 3 a.m. And so I start yelling. I was so upset because I was going through a depressed period. And I was so upset. And he's like, oh my God, the demons are, and I'm like, no, you're so rude. Why are you wetting me at 3 a.m.? And he's like, the priest told me to. I'm like, why? I'm just depressed. What are you doing? So it's been like, you know, if you take your journey too seriously, it's really something that will destroy you mentally. But if you can see some of the humor in your perceptions of things, it's such a distorted perception. When you become aware of the reality of the energies, the beings, how creation really is structured, it kind of becomes a little bit funny, you know, and then you learn to cope and process and then accept who you are and what you can do.
Oh wow. So were you also seeing people who have passed away and guides, angels, things like that? Was these all part of your daily reality that you saw?
Yes, yes, I saw all types of different beings. I've had Archangel Michael with me my entire life. And again, because of my programming as a child, um, whenever he would come in and communicate with me, I would always accuse him of being a demon trying to trick me. And I'm like, you're not really an angel, you're a demon. And he would just like, he would get frustrated and just be like, oh, this girl. And it's only really in the past few years that I've come to accept that really is Archangel Michael. I've had a lot of people who have crossed over come and communicate with me, and in the beginning, that was very difficult, because how do you go up to a stranger and let them know, like, look, I understand, you know, your loved one has passed. They're telling me this, this, and this, and just take that information. I'm gonna go walk the other way. And it's gotten me into like a lot of awkward situations. In addition to like seeing different types of beings, I also am shown quite a bit of different things that occur at a later date, and it's the accuracy of the things that I'm shown. It created a lot of fear. Having all these things that are unexplainable and taboo happening, it was very difficult to cope. It was truly very difficult to cope.
Yeah. Oh God, I can imagine. Especially if you're seeing things that no one else can see and you don't have anyone else to verify that for you. That must have been kind of yeah, quite difficult. Well, how did people react when you did go up to them and you wanted to just pass on this message from their loved one who had passed away? Did people normally kind of go like, oh God, who is this? Or why are you telling me this? You know, you're crazy. Did they?
Well, that was the fear, the anxiety that I had, was that like, what if they tell me I'm crazy? What if they get mad at me? What if I hurt their feelings more? And 100% of the time, I don't know if this is unique to me, but 100% of the time, they would break down crying and like, how did you know this? And I'm like, well, they told me. They're standing right beside you. And they would want to cling on to me. They would want my information, how to contact me later on. And I'm like, no, I'm going the other way. And then you're going to act like I never came up to you. We're going to forget about this. And that was actually one of the things in the very beginning. I would help people. I wouldn't charge for my services. I would help them under the agreement that you are never to tell anyone who I am. You can share your story, you can share what you experience with me, but you're never to tell anyone who I am. I don't want anyone knowing that I'm weird, you know? So it's just really in the past, I want to say 2 or 3 years, that I'm willing to let people see and be a part of my experiences.
Wow. And I think I can speak for a lot of people to say that I'm so glad that you did, because yeah, the work that you're doing is really just quite something. But I think I remember you mentioning in one of your previous videos that you started to see sort of geometric shapes and you know, what does, I really want to understand, how does the world look to you when you kind of tune in, or when you try to see into the energy field? What does it look like?
So this is crazy. There's a lot of movies that are created that are sci-fi that they're not sci-fi. They're just not sci-fi. With the things that I've experienced even before those movies came into being, that's exactly how I was seeing and experiencing things. The matrix, when the coding comes down, when I want to see something on a subatomic level, it's like that. But instead of alphanumeric, it becomes a very ancient type of coding. It's a form of light language that has no spoken counterpart. It's very ancient. It's the first language. It's a language that's felt, not heard. And so it becomes that. And when you see me working, and you see me like, people like, what is she doing? I am changing the code. I'm spinning them around, and every rotation creates a different potentiality. And so I see things like that. I see things in color, different colors. It could be like a misty color with no shape, or it can be a outline made of light. Geometric shapes are very huge. Creation, from what I see and experience, is structured with 3 different types of frequencies: audible, light, and shape, form. And so those things combine, and they create grids that layers that become grids, that become the structures of your morphogenetic template.
Wow. Okay. That's okay. Yeah, that's another one. So you work with the morphogenetic template. Tell me a little bit more about that, because I've heard some scientists are also talking about this now. Only now, because I think science is kind of catching up to that. But you've been working for that for a long time. Can you explain a little bit more the morphogenetic template, and exactly how does it differ to everything else that we've been taught before about the body, the physical body, and the energy field and stuff like that?
So the morphogenetic template, it's a grid work that contains everything you ever were, ever are, ever will be, every experience, every variation, potentiality of a potentiality, all of that is contained there, and it's condensed, and it's really light, sound, and shape, form. And what ends up happening, this is with you for your entire existence. What's behind the physical eyes is immortal. Mm-hmm. And so what happens is, when you come into form, physical form, when you're born, that morphogenetic template is connected to your DNA, and it instructs your DNA how to pattern itself to express the code in a certain way. So that's what determines your hair color, depending on the placement of the cell. That's what determines what type of cell, all of that, down to your personality. We are designed perfectly. We are not just something that is like an accident that's born. No, we are absolutely perfectly designed. Every single aspect of you is programmed and accounted for this particular experience. And so the morphogenetic template is where all of that information is stored, and then it gets transferred to the DNA, which then gets expressed physically. Now, if you're talking about abilities and ancestral memories, all of that is stored through the mother. The mother's mitochondria records everything from the ancestors before her, and she passes it to her children, mother to child, mother to child. So if you have abilities, most likely it comes from your mother and her lineage and all her mothers. And so there's so many varying degrees of the same type of organization. It's a stair-step creation. And you're taking a large thing and you're subdividing it into basically smaller clones of itself, and then smaller and smaller and smaller, subdivide further and further and further until we get to our individuated experience.
Wow, that's so interesting. That really rings a bell, because there is a scientist called Bruce Lipton who came up with the whole epigenetic thing, right? And he was saying, because up until I don't know, the 2000s or something, science, or we all believe that all of these, what color our hair is, or what determines what color our eyes are, and things like that, are determined by the genes, by the DNA. But actually it's not, because when they looked into the DNA, it wasn't there. So it was something before that. So something before the DNA. So that this morphogenetic template, it makes a lot of sense that that's what it is. Basically, it comes from that. Yeah. So it's so would you describe it as sort of like this energetic blueprint that creates the physical the physical blueprint?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. It's I love that you brought up Bruce Lipton, because it was at a certain point in my journey about 3 years ago where, you know, I had been quietly helping people, and I got to a point where I got frustrated because I didn't have the terms to help me explain what I was doing, explain to myself what I was doing. And I had told Archangel Michael, who's a personal guide of mine, I had told him, if you don't give me scientific proof, because I'm kind of nerdy like that, I love science. I told him, if you don't give me scientific proof that I'm not perpetuating, furthering demonic work, I'm not doing anything at all. I don't care what you tell me. And I came across two things. I came across Ashiana Dean's work, which she had written a manual. It's called Kathara. And then I came across Bruce Lipton's work. And those two things put together, I was like, these two individuals are describing my work to a T. To a T. I never had the terms. When people ask me what I do, I'm like, there's just these little things. And then if you touch them and you send energy through the finger, you just touch them and then they'll sparkle and they'll turn and then it changes things. And they're like, what are you talking about? And then when I came across that work, like I literally cried, because before I went to bed that night, I told Michael that. And when I woke up in the morning, I opened my laptop and every single Ashiana Dean manual she had ever written was on my laptop. Wow. Alongside another window that was open that was for Bruce Lipton's work. And I was like, oh, I'll keep doing it. So yeah, it's super fascinating. There's much deeper layers to this. This is something that I didn't Google this. I wasn't taught it. I didn't read it in a book. These are things that were programmed into my soul. These are memories of my soul that I'm now no longer resisting. And so more of the memories are coming back. And as the memories come back, more of the coding that is necessary to access those abilities fire up, and I'm able to do even more.
Wow, that's so interesting, and I'm so glad that you've explained, because I wondered what it is that you do with your hands when you do the energy work, and it's really interesting, isn't it? You kind of just do this and it's like, what is she doing? Yeah, okay, so now I know. Oh wow, that's really, really interesting. So can you when you do this work, do you have to intend that you want to see this person's energy and everything, or does it just literally, you can see it already, it's just there? Do you have to intentionally ask for it to be shown?
Well, I'm a little bit different than most people because of the soul tribe that I come from. I can see through and penetrate any shield. And with that, I'm always very like, I don't want to infringe on anyone's sovereignty. And so I always have just had this intention put in place where only show me what I need to complete the work that's asked of me. And so I'm shown, if someone requests to know where something is on their template because of symptom presentation, then I'm shown exactly what part of the template. I don't sift through things that are not necessary for me to know. So yeah, I mean, I can go down, I can scan down to a subatomic level. I can see how the part of K and part of Chi, the fission and fusion that occurs, if there's a distortion in that, a delay, like a lag in the sequencing, that definitely affects the expression of code. It's so fascinating. There's so many levels and layers to it. Absolutely.
Yeah, wow, that's, yeah, I mean, I remember, yeah, from seeing all of your videos and stuff, and you just, all the terms that you use as well, they're very scientific. So, well, one of the things I wanted to ask was, do you need to have a medical understanding? Because, you know, you can literally see into people's physical bodies and you know, way beyond that. So do you need to have an understanding? Because I'm sure it helps, right, to be able to describe what's going on with them.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is a prime example of how everything in your life was perfectly calculated and designed to further your spiritual path. I, from childhood, was groomed to become a surgeon. And as I began the medical program, I then decided, well, I'll just, be a regular doctor. And then things shifted within me, and I'll just be a nurse. And then things shifted again, and I was like, I don't really agree with the industry, but I do really love the subject matter. And so I've just always had this intense understanding, like a medical inclination. And a lot of people in my family, because my family is primarily medical, a lot of them are like, you totally wasted your talent. You're so gifted in medical things. The medical community could have benefited from having you be a part of it. And it clicked one day where it was like, I was never meant to be a doctor. This was to help me develop my understanding of the way the human vessel is designed so that I could further my spiritual work. And, if you're going to be doing the kind of work that I do in particular, you do need to have a medical understanding, at least some kind of inclination. Is it absolutely necessary? No, it's not. But if you're going to do medical intuitive work, then yeah, you have to. If you're just going to stick to repatterning, attunements, recodements, things like that, you don't need to have a full medical understanding.
Yeah. I was going to ask you, but the question just escaped me. Yeah. So with the let's see. So yeah, one thing I wanted to ask was about the. I really like the idea that you mentioned earlier about having this integrity of always asking permission from people to work on them, because of course that's if you can kind of just see straight through someone, I mean, why should you ask permission? But I really like this idea. Why do you think it's important for someone who does the type of work that you do to do that?
Usually when you have the type of abilities that I have, you are more heavily observed and followed by fourth dimensional beings, parasitic beings. They're always looking for an entry point. When you do things like that don't really carry the level of integrity and honor that you need to have to prevent a personal breach of parasites within your space, you'll be opening doors to that. So what tends to happen for people who have that ability and don't humble themselves enough to not just use it, because just because you can do it doesn't mean you should, right? If you don't humble yourself enough to ask permission first, what will happen? It will happen. It's just a matter of when. You will come across what I coined as a Trojan. Now, these are people who don't know they have a parasitic circumstance. They are very much affected by this circumstance. They're brought to you by the parasite unknowingly. The parasite guides them to you, and the person doesn't know this. They're like, oh, I came across someone who can help me. And you're doing this, and it's like, do you realize you have to thin your shield in order for you to receive the information? You thin that shield, that parasite is strong enough, you've just been breached. So people, it's an honor to me that people think that I do this for the fact that I have integrity and I'm honest. It's a self-preservation thing. Like, I understand, in exchange for respecting someone's sovereignty, my sovereignty is left intact. Nothing's allowed to enter. If I don't breach, nothing breaches me. And it's a mirroring, because whatever goes on within you, it will eventually be projected around you. So hold yourself to the highest integrity. If you do that, by virtue of the law of reflection, everything outside of you must honor you the way you honor everything outside. And so it's really, it's beautiful in all its different levels, because not only are you doing something that's respectful of others, it really empowers you to command that kind of respect from other beings.
Oh, wow. Wow, I totally agree with that. And I think it's really, really wonderful that you do it from that sort of space, and you have that integrity and sovereignty, as you call it, which is, really quite different. I definitely want to talk about parasites, because I can already feel people being like, what's parasites? What's parasites? So we're going to come back to that. But before we do that, I just wanted to ask, in terms of when it comes to self-healing, and you know, because energy, you do a lot of the energy work that you do is to do with self-healing. Why do you think it's important to address it on all these levels, so not just on the physical but also on the energetic, on the spiritual level? Why do you think that's kind of key?
They're all intertwined, all of them. One of the main, in my humble opinion, one of the main failures of allopathic modern medicine is that they've subdivided the body into organ systems instead of treating it as a whole. Now, when you take apart the emotion from the mental, from the physical, from the energy, they are intertwined. You can't address one and leave the other. So everything, all disease, all illness stems from one root causation: energetic imbalance. What causes energetic imbalance? Intense emotions. When your emotions are intense, it can create blockages. Those emotional blockages then affect your mental process. When your mental process is affected, then you're perpetuating the feeding of energy into that blockage. And now you have a significant energetic circumstance. And this energy is a very potent energy. Just because we're immersed in it and this is all we know and are therefore not fully aware of the energetic experience doesn't lessen the fact that this is a very potent energy. What happens if you swallow a radioactive particle? If it just passes right through, probably nothing, you know? It's not the best idea to do that, but probably nothing will happen if it passes right through. Now, what happens if that particle gets lodged in your belly and stays there for a prolonged period? It then begins to radiate all of the cells around it. And what happens when the cells around it get radiated? The cellular expression of that DNA coding becomes distorted. Things like apoptosis, which is programmed cell death, becomes distorted. The cells no longer know when they need to naturally die off. That's when you begin to grow things like tumors, cancers, a lot of things that originally begin as an emotional imbalance then becomes a mental process, then becomes an energetic circumstance, which then gives rise to the physicality of things. And so all of it's intertwined. I can extract, I can correct, I can purge and clear energies and make you all brand new again. But if we don't shift the perception that caused the emotion that perpetuated the mental process, you have that circumstance again. And at that point, it's like, okay, so what did we really do? Nothing. Yeah. And that's why we're the most powerful thing in our lives. No one can heal you. People try and tell me that I'm a healer. I am not. I am a facilitator. I empower you. I help you to remember your power so that you can heal yourself. I facilitate your self-healing by assisting with clearing energies, recoding, attunements, all of that. But it has to be maintained or it reverts back to the condition that we had before I ever worked on you.
Yeah, that's so key. From everything I've learned and from everything I've seen in your work and other people who do like energy work, it's so key to address the emotional, the mental causes that have created this physical illness in the first place. And that's one thing that's definitely, I'd say, put me off the medical field. And I know not everyone is, you know, of course they do help with a lot of things, but when it comes to physical ailments, I've definitely seen with my own eyes and just personally as well how emotions can totally cause physical illnesses. So that's so key to remember. Yeah, definitely. Okay, so now, okay, so say we have a scenario where a person, you know, has this trauma and then they keep going over and over in their head. They're not able to resolve it. The emotions are stuck in their emotional body, in their physical body. And gradually this starts to build up an illness. So this weakens their aura, right? From what I know. And then they start to attract things that are of that same frequency that we might term parasites or something similar. So what are parasites?
So being what my background is, when you hear terms like a demon, Immediately your brain shuts off. I'm powerless. There's nothing I can do. I'm helpless. I'm going to be victimized. There's nothing I can do. So that term really, it didn't resonate with me, because I came to an understanding there are beings that exist primarily in the fourth dimension. The fourth dimension is still at the toddler phase of our spiritual consciousness. This is a phase where everything is about you, me. How am I going to survive? Parasites are the beings that exist within the fourth dimension, sometimes a little bit higher. And these beings have really committed to this belief that they are separate from the God source, prime creator, whatever you want to call that original source of energy. So if you're separate from that, how are you going to maintain yourself? How are you going to sustain your life, your existence? You have to feed. And so what they do is they feed on things that have energy, and we're made of energy. And so if it can, somehow convince us to give over our sovereignty, to give authority to them, to feed on us, our energy, then they will. And is this an evil thing? Traditionally, the human mind would think, yes, that's an evil thing. But if you look at it logically, they believe they'll no longer exist. This is a way for them to survive. This is a survival instinct kicking in. So is it still evil? The means that they go about using to facilitate a feed, it's questionable. It's definitely from a dark source, but is it evil? I don't think so. They're trying to survive, just like a tapeworm is not evil. It's trying to survive. It's stealing nutrients from you, but is its intention evil? No. Do you feel that kind of same paralyzing fear you experience hearing you have a demon in your body versus you have a parasite in your body, a tapeworm, ringworm, whatever kind of, you're just kind of like, ew, get that out. I don't want that here. So your power is left intact. When it's referred to as a parasite, your power is left intact. You understand there is something foreign that needs to be addressed, and you address it. And that's why I began calling it parasite, because that's what it is. Parasites are not evil per se. Again, their means to facilitate their feeding is questionable. It can be very dark, it can be abusive, it can be really ugly, but at the end of the day, they really just want to survive because they believe themselves to be separate. So parasites typically occupy the fourth dimension. With the way creation is structured, whatever dimension we're anchored at, we experience everything beneath that. So people are currently believing we need to rise up and enter 5D. We want to be 5D because that's the place to be, apparently. First, we exist in a 15-dimensional time-space matrix. Kathara does a wonderful job explaining this dimensional structuring. But we exist in a 15-dimensional time-space matrix. And if it's true that we experience everything beneath where we're anchored, and so many of us are now experiencing and becoming aware of parasitic activity and circumstance, by virtue of what I just shared, we as a people are already anchored in the fifth dimension. And as we're anchored in the fifth, we are fully aware of the activities going on in the fourth. Now, fourth dimension is where all those icky things hang out. And that's why, I saw an article recently where I believe the Pope was the one that made the statement that exorcisms are at an all-time high. And I was like, you're admitting this? Oh my gosh. So I'm just like, wow, that's proof to me. We're anchored in the 5D. We have risen up. And I think we're really just in a process of climbing even higher and really tapping into our true consciousness, our compassion, all of the higher sensory perceptions.
Wow. Yeah. Oh wow, that's interesting that the Pope actually mentioned it. So that means it's really like there's really something big here. Yeah, no, it's really interesting. One of the most surprising things I found since kind of learning about these parasites and all of these things that exist in the invisible, in the non-physical realm, um, is that, you know, well, one is that we attract them because of these emotional blockages that we have within us, and two is that we do have the authority to tell them not to bother us. You know, we I guess just from this idea of demons and the fear that comes with that, that's, you know, been perpetuated by the films and by the media. People don't even realize that they have this ability to say no, or to say, I mean, whether it actually works or not, that's a different question, because I guess it depends on the level of your, you know, energy. But yeah, one of the things that I've realized is that you do to some extent have the ability to say no, and you don't want to be kind of bothered by them. But you know, I guess the minute you kind of mention anything to do with that to people who are not so familiar with this topic, it's just like, oh, it's so scary, I don't want to talk about it. But they are, you know, they're still there, and whether we like it or not, it doesn't really make a difference, because they are affecting us. On some.
Right. And I like to make the analogy, because there are certain schools of thought where it's like, if you think about it, then you're empowering it, and you're the one that's creating the demon. Okay, I still exist even though someone in Timbuktu has no idea that I'm alive. You know what I mean? So just because you want to choose to believe it's not real does not mean it no longer exists, that it ceased to exist. There are billions of people on this planet that I know nothing about. I don't know their names. I don't know what they look like. I don't know where they live. I don't know their life, yet they still exist without my conscious permission. So whatever gave anyone the right to choose to say that something doesn't get to exist because I don't give permission? Mm-mm. Mm-mm. Going back to what you were talking about, we are the ultimate authority. Sovereignty is being the ultimate authority within your auric field. You are the king or queen of your auric kingdom. That's why you have a crown chakra. You've been crowned the king or queen of your energetic kingdom. And as a king or queen, if you don't carry the energy of that king or queen, no one listens to you. You have to embody that authority. You are not allowed in my space. You need to leave, or there will be consequences. And people are like, oh, that's so badass. I'm like, no, that's just me embodying my inner empress. Like, you are not allowed here. There will be consequences if you stay. And then I back that up. So energy doesn't lie. You know, for the most part, when I begin the extraction sequence, I'm fully cloaked. Whatever I'm extracting has no idea what I am. They're just like, oh my gosh, there's something here. I don't know what it is. And because I've been doing this work for so long, I've developed somewhat of a reputation, energetically speaking. Once they detect something's there that has no fear and is cloaked, they're like, ooh, I think it's that one girl. She's a little bit heavy-handed. And so they tend to just release. But if you don't have that that follow through, you can draw as many lines in the sand as you want, but unless it's enforced, they're nothing but lines in the sand. So what we really need to recognize, we do all have the power to keep our field clear, but with our focused intention and the energy to back that up, to follow it through. You have to have follow through, or it doesn't do anything. You know, you can say whatever you want, but your energy will never lie. If your energy doesn't carry with it the authority to back up that eviction, it doesn't mean anything, you know?
Yeah, totally. And I guess that comes with you know, practice, doesn't it? Practice and knowing who you are, knowing the power that you do have, which most people don't. Even I don't, still, to a big extent, but I think that's so important. And I just want to point out, and I know this is, you know, some people are going to get scared of that, but you know, it is a Halloween special, so we're going all out. But one of the things that you mentioned earlier today in one of your videos was about how because we're ascending so rapidly, with everything going on, there are these energies, negative energies, that are trying to influence us and that are trying to kind of sabotage us, say, in a way. And one of the things that I've noticed is that, you know, a lot of the times they try to penetrate in your kind of mind and try to input thoughts that might not be necessarily yours, or to amplify negative thoughts that you're already having. But, you know, with their interference, they get even worse. So people who might be feeling a little bit depressed, with the presence of these things, they might be feeling even worse. And obviously, not knowing what's going on, we just think we're going crazy. Because I've had those, you know, I've had this in my life, and before I understood it, it was so scary for me, because I was kind of like, wow, why am I thinking all these horrible thoughts, you know, because you literally can't control it. It comes to a point where it's got hold over you, and you don't know, and you just think you're evil, or that there's something wrong with you. And I really want to point this out, because I've noticed that a lot of people do have, and they do go through that, but again, they just think it's them, and there's something so wrong with them, when actually there's things that they just need to address, and they need to allow or go to someone who understands how to address the situation. So can you just talk a little bit about that, and how they can kind of interfere with our thoughts?
Right. So it goes back to what I was saying earlier about, you know, parasites have a very elevated survival instinct. And what happens is they have highly developed mimicry abilities. When they're attempting to feed, if your frequency is too high, because of some of the laws of creation, they can't enter your field. There's a ceiling between the fourth dimension and higher. They can't reach higher dimensions. They're locked into the fourth dimension because of their own personal beliefs and limitations. And so what ends up happening, in order for them to facilitate their feeding, they have to get you to drop your frequency. Because remember, at this point, we're anchored in the fifth. Just by being who you are by definition untouchable. They can't touch you. There's a ceiling there. And so what they need to do is somehow get your frequency to plummet, even if it's temporarily. If they can get you to plummet your frequency, they can access you. They just need that one little opening to access. And I mean, your frequency can jump back up if you want, and they're already in. And it doesn't matter after that. They've already gained access. So what happens is they mimic the sound of your voice perfectly. And if you're not aware, then obviously you're going to assume this is you thinking this. This is you thinking this. This is you feeling this. These are your thoughts. You've gone crazy. Something is wrong with you. Why am I so evil? I'm possessed. All of these like really intense thoughts. When in reality, they're not your thoughts at all. They're not. Primarily latchings, which is what I call the anchor points for parasitic beings. They occur around the ears, the upper shoulders, upper back area, around the neck, chest, because it facilitates the ability to speak to you. You've seen the cartoons where there's an angel and a little devil, and they're speaking to you. Those are parasitic latchings. Cutesified, but still parasitic latchings. And so that's kind of what's going on. We have to recognize when these thoughts come out of nowhere, we need to question that, okay? You don't have to fully know, master your life, or understand even. Simple questioning is not bad. You're in a good mood and suddenly, I wanna hurt people. Whoa, where did that come from? You know, and you'll see me talking to myself like, that's not my thought. Where did that come from? You know, and just saying that, you're taking ownership of your space, and you're not giving passive permission for something else to manipulate you. Because what they need is to manipulate you. When you start thinking those things are your thoughts, your frequency will plummet, and then they can access. Another thing is that when you have these blockages forming because of emotions, thoughts, life circumstance, we oftentimes will build walls to protect ourselves. Well, when you build enough walls, what happens? You've created a structure, a dwelling within you. If you build it, they will come. There's that saying, right? So you've built a little convenient house for this parasite to occupy within you, safely contained within the walls you've created because of your refusal to address your life circumstance, the things that are difficult. And You know, I don't want this to come off as derogatory, or, you know, you're not as good as me. No, all of us struggle through this. But as you gain a deeper understanding of how you process your life events, when you hold yourself accountable for co-creating those events, the walls are less likely to be built, and you'll have less hiding places for parasites to occupy. You have to really, really allow yourself to embrace who you are. Me knowing who I am at this point in my journey, I don't know everything about myself yet, but me knowing who I am at this point in my journey makes it very difficult to reach me. It's not impossible, but it's very difficult, because when those foreign thoughts come in, who was that? I don't think those kind of things. That was not my thought. Who was that? And, you know, me not taking it so seriously, because some people are like, how can you, this is not a joke. This is serious. This is spirituality. Actually, one of the most powerfully spiritual things you can do, or spiritually powerful things you can do, is have a sense of humor and understand all of this is just a classroom. We're just learning lessons. Enjoy yourself, because when you exist in a very authentic way and just enjoy yourself, you're less likely to have your frequency altered and plummeted. And then you're less likely to get breached. And that's why I joke around so much. It's like, I can't take this serious. Even if you breach me, I'm going to remove you. So it's just hilarious to me at this point. And that's kept me very, very safe doing this work. That alone has kept me very safe during this work. Yeah.
Yeah, I've definitely seen you do that, and I'm kind of like, is she talking to an entity now? Is this like a, yeah? But like, I mean, that's so key, and I can't, for myself, I can't stress enough, and also for other people to understand, despite how scary this might seem, or despite how unreal this might seem, because I know some people don't have a clue about this stuff, and you know, but that key of self-awareness and just knowing yourself, and knowing when the thoughts are yours and when they're not yours, because again, like what you just said, you know, we have to be so aware of that. So yeah, that's definitely something I'm trying to work on as well. But it's so hard, because it's kind of like, well, how do I know if it's mine or not mine? But yeah, it's I guess with practice. So how, moving on from that, and to kind of lighten up the theme a bit, how would you say, what can people do to you know, to be more in alignment with themselves, and to start to be more self-aware? And what's the key thing that you think you can recommend for others to learn or to know?
I think the most important thing is to really just hold yourself accountable for every event in your life. Everything that happens to you is happening for you. But if you don't take ownership of that, then something else will own it, will own the energy that was generated to bring that event to your doorstep. If you can take ownership, and this doesn't mean you're going to go on a live and confess all of your sins. It has nothing to do with confession to other people or any of that. This is about acknowledging, okay, this happened to me. Now I'm going to have this happen for me. By taking ownership of it, I'm supposed to learn something from this. Let me figure out what it was that I was supposed to learn from this experience. Just that mindset alone, recognizing that no one can truly victimize you, because at some point in creation, you sat down with their soul and you guys were like, okay, buddy, I'm going to need you to do this to me, with me, for me at this point in my journey, because I kind of need to learn this lesson. And they're like, okay, I'll do that for you. But we're not going to remember each other, okay? I probably will hate you after, but just do it anyways. And they're like, no, I got you. I love you. I got you. I'll do this for you. And so if you can shift your perception to that, you take away that victim mentality, that lacking mentality. And some people will go so far, you know, their cognitive dissonance will take them so far as to say, well, she's probably never had anything bad happen to her. That's why she can be all jolly and have these theories, and it's all BS. You know, I paid a very steep price to be able to have the understanding that I have. In order for me to surrender enough to my soul to do this work publicly, my soul made me homeless for 5 months for no reason other than because until you go do live streams like we've been telling you to do, you're going to sit in a parking lot. Enjoy that. And I was like, okay, it's like glamping. And then after the 5th month, I was like, okay, this is not glamping anymore. I will go live. And within a week, I was no longer in a parking lot. So it's a very real thing. The things that I talk about, the things that I have some kind of knowing about, are things that I've lived through. These are not theories that I've found online and kind of just made my own. These are life events that have helped me to understand the very concept by living through it. And that's why I have such a deep understanding. And if you can grasp what I'm saying and apply it to your own journey, you'll understand everything that you live through is attempting to ripen your understanding of your journey, just as what I lived through ripened my understanding of my own. And that's how we heal ourselves. And when you exist authentically and have no shame for the events that help to shape you and empower you, you then free all the people who are witnessing your rise from your own ashes to free themselves as well, to heal themselves. So it's really a ripple effect, that this is how we change the world, by first changing ourselves, changing our perceptions of who we are.
Wow, that's really powerful, and I completely agree. How I've seen you change quite a bit over the last year of knowing you, and it's almost like you just keep growing and growing and growing. And I know, just like you mentioned, you've only started doing this really a few years ago. So how has your life changed since you kind of stepped into what you were really meant to be doing, which is with this work and everything that you do?
Oh gosh, it's completely different. I'm such a different person because I used to live in fear. I used to live in so much shame and guilt. And most of that is gone. I can honestly say most of that is gone. I can say that I like who I am today. You know, before I began really publicly sharing my life and my journey, I didn't like who I was. I was always dissatisfied. I was always like, well, other people, are more this or more that, and looking at other people's happiness and looking now, were they ever really happy? No. It was all this, external stuff that we put out there for people to think that we're happy, but are you truly happy? I can say that with me accepting myself in my path, I am actually truly happy at this point. It doesn't matter where I am. It doesn't matter, how much I have, how much I've earned or haven't earned. I'm just as happy now as I was being in a parking lot, because it was at that point that I began to understand myself. That's why I wasn't bothered living in a parking lot. It's like glamping, I'm just going to think my thoughts in my RV and just, but I do also understand that as I change and grow, more people will be drawn to my journey, because to me, this is just all I know. This is my journey. I have nothing to prove. I'm not trying to build an audience. This is just, I'm finally letting people witness me. And so for me, it's not really a big deal. This is all I know. But for other people, this is a huge deal, because now they're finally seeing someone who they can relate to, where they don't feel like they're crazy, where they can feel like, okay, you know what? Me being different is not a bad thing. There are quite a few other people that are like me. So it's this recognition that everything I am doing now, it's serving as a template for other people in their journey. So now things that I normally would be like, whatever, you think whatever you want. Now I feel like, especially if it's done during a live stream, I feel obligated to speak up and be like, no, you don't get to talk to me that way. You don't get to disrespect me. You don't have my permission to interact with me in that way. Respect yourself, because I respect myself, and I need you to be a mirror of that level of mutual respect that I have. And it really, it's empowering, but also very difficult for me to process, because I kind of want to just stay hidden. That's why I didn't want to go live. That's, like before. I've been doing this work for most of my life, but I've just been publicly doing it for past few years. In an ideal world, I want to be hidden. I want to just do the work quietly. No one knows who I am. Just quietly do my Robin Hood thing, and then, you know, go watch TV with my family. But I recognize I exist in this life at this point to be something more than what I'm comfortable being. And that's okay. That's okay for me to be uncomfortable. It's okay for me to be socially awkward. It's okay for me to say things that freak people out, because even if they don't agree, but go ahead and look for information to try and prove me wrong. And in their search, they'll find their own answers for themselves. So it's a huge thing to be able to know that me freeing myself frees other people. It doesn't make me any better. It just makes me understand there's so much more gravity to each of us than we ever could really truly realize. You know, like, I don't even know why people watch my live streams, to be honest. I'm like, honestly, I guess if you guys want to, I'm a little bit weird, but okay.
I think I love the way you own that, though, because it's, I mean, first of all, like, kudos to you for doing all of that, because what you're introducing is so different to anything like I've ever seen anyone do. And I know a lot of people also have never seen anyone do the work that you do. So for one, I mean, you already know you're going to get so much resistance with that, because people are not used to it. They think it's crazy, it's too this, it's too that. And, you know, for me, it took me a long time to understand the work that you were doing. So, you know, I remember when I watched, for example, Bruce Lipton, everything was kind of connecting, you know, and I was like, oh yeah, that's what Emmie said about this and about that. And then just, I could see how things just connect and how they just made sense. And the first time you did energy work on me, I could literally feel your energy, you know, you doing whatever you were doing, even though you were all the way in the US and I was all the way here in the UK. I could feel your energy. It was so crazy for me because yeah, again, I'm very quite logical and I'm very scientific with these things. So, you know, it's kind of like I don't see it until I don't believe in it until I see it. And with you see it, like you believe, you feel it very much. So it's kind of like you do see the evidence of the work that you're doing. And I think just from the past year of knowing you, you've grown so much. And, you know, I know that you've helped so many people, and I see the comments all the time. And it's like, wow, it's just so amazing, because I feel like I can really relate to everything that you're saying and the way in which you're saying it, and, you know, the process that you're going through in your mind. I can so resonate with that. So it just makes me feel so good that I can kind of like see someone that's kind of like, oh, I get them, like I get what they mean. And, you know, I don't feel weird now, because I know that there's someone else who thinks the same way that I do. So it's just so amazing to like know you and to know your work. And I really feel like, and that's probably the Aquarian like visionary part of me that's kind of, you know, talking here, but I really feel like the work that's going to start happening from, especially from 2020 onwards, is going to be all about the energy work, you know, based on energy healing, self-healing, because so many people now are realizing this whole idea that we can heal ourselves because our minds are that powerful, you know, our hearts are so powerful, the frequency that they emit. So this, what you've started, it's so, I mean, it's just gonna, you know, it's only gonna get bigger. And I think it's so amazing that you're doing it, and you're standing for so many people, you're standing up for so many people. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, thank you. It I I don't want to say it will be something that really gets a foothold. As of right now, the different types of energetic modalities that are known by the general public, they only harness energies, frequencies from the first three dimensions. So it's a very superficial type of penetration of energy. With Kokoro 33, I do teach classes, and my system, we start at the 12th dimension or higher with frequencies, because it's within the 12th dimension that the original template of health is stored without distortions. So when you harness that level of frequency, you can penetrate to core level and actually initiate true healing, not just a cessation of the symptoms. So I'm working with quite a few different clients who have documented medical conditions, serious ones. And it still blows my mind. I'm just like, how do you even know how to find me? I have a couple clients who, one in particular, their neurologist in a completely different state told them, you need to call this girl and ask her to scan and work on you. And I thought they were told just a general like energy work. And they were like, oh yeah, Dr. So-and-so is our neurologist, and he told us to message you. He gave us your, and I was like, what?
That's
A neurologist? You know, and so there are changes that are occurring within modern medicine where the doctors, the professionals, they're recognizing that there is a need for something more than allopathic medicine. And this is not to bash allopathic medicine. It definitely has its use and appropriate time. You know, it definitely has a very important function in our society, but for true healthcare, it's not doing what it needs to do. And the doctors are definitely recognizing there are other things that need to be factored in, energy being one of them. It's beautiful. It's beautiful to see this medical industry kind of being turned on its head, and instead of being disoriented and flopping over, they're doing head spins. They're like, yeah, get the party started. Humanity is about to change, you know, with next year. A lot of people are becoming hyper aware of things that were very taboo before, but are now becoming very common practice, things that aren't so scary to talk about. And this is part of the reason why I have such a respect for your work. It's just as profound as the work that I and everyone else does, because you're bringing to light the very things that humanity needs to normalize. That's a huge component of this movement. I hope you realize that.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, yeah, it's definitely like a weird journey, isn't it? Because you're talking about things that are so taboo. No one wants to speak about them. Like, for example, the documentary that I'm working on that I mentioned earlier in the video, called Beyond the Veil. It's, you know, it's all about what happens in life after death, and kind of looking at the non-physical reality, the invisible world, the world where we can communicate with spirits, with all types of entities, with angels, with guardians, guides. And I've had so many conversations with people who are kind of like, you know, the ones that don't really believe in this, and they're like, how can you believe in this, you know, how it's not real? And I'm like, it's scientifically proven that we're energy, you know. It's like, how, for me, what really shocked me is the fact that most people are not even up to date with the scientific evidence, let alone anything else, you know. I mean, at least if you could actually see that this is now you know, real, it's a real thing. And then what about all the people, you know, like you, the clairvoyants, the clairsentients, the clairaudience, who can actually see this and have been able to see it for their whole life? You know, how can people dismiss someone else's experience and just completely just, you know, nullify it and be like, no, this is not real, it's not part of my reality? I just don't get it. But I mean, it's not to slam anyone, or of course everyone's allowed to have their opinions, and that's completely understandable. Because I know, because I never used to believe in it, you know, like 5 years ago I never used to believe in that. But obviously with time and with having a death in the family, that almost like forced me to see things from another perspective, and to start exploring this energy world, exploring the non-physical, and what happens in life after death. So yeah, it's definitely been a tough journey to say the least. But yeah, I think it's so important that we do this work. And like you were saying, you know, it's, you want to stay hidden and you don't want to do the lives most of the times. Yeah, like I totally get it. And but I know at the same time, and I know that you know, that we kind of, you have to do this, because otherwise people won't know, and people might not be able to heal themselves if it wasn't for you, or if it wasn't, or they might not be able to communicate with their dead grandmother who they still miss so much, if it wasn't for some other person that they came across, you know. So yeah, I think it's so important.
I've really reached a point in my journey where I accept that everything that I've gone through in life, which has been a full life, it's definitely been a full life. And everything that I've gone through was to prepare me to assist in the way that I do. And so when I allow people to be aware of me, what I do, the work that I do, and they trust me to be a part of their journey, it kind of validates um, that I went through those things for a good reason, that it was worth it. And so you'll get to a point in your journey, and this can apply to everyone, where everything that's happened to you, even though you don't understand why it happened, it'll make sense that it had to happen, because now your interaction with someone years later gives weight to that experience, makes that experience something that you needed in this life. I actually just made a statement before we came live that I finally reached a point in my journey where everything in my life, I wouldn't change anything. I realize I've been fully present in my life, from traumas to good times. Everything helped me to be who I am. And I like who I am right now. I know I'm still going to continue to grow, and I'm going to continue to change. And as I grow and change, I'll continue to evolve my understanding of myself. And I think I've finally gotten to a point where no matter which way I evolve, I'm going to be in love with the person that I am. And that's a beautiful thing. You know, empaths have a hard time accepting who they are. Very hard time. They always put themselves last. They always bend over backwards. This is part of the reason why empaths are often very, very sick, have very poor health, because they give their energy away. And it's this realization, finally realizing I was never meant to separate myself from the group I came here to love. I'm a part of that group. This body is a part of the group that my soul came here and promised to love on and protect and provide for and assist. And empaths, we have a tendency to separate ourselves from the group. Like, I love all of them. I'll take care of me later. But it's like, you're part of that group, you know, that this body, this existence is a part of that group. So you have to continue to allow yourself to have space to evolve and change, and just accept yourself as you are. There's nothing you have to become. You already are. You already are that greatness. You don't have to evolve into that greatness. And I'm recognizing our evolution is actually the opposite of what we think it is. Our evolution is the undoing of our beliefs and this perception of who we think we are. Because who we think we are is nothing more than a compilation of other people's perceptions of who they believe us to be. That's all we are. And until you can undo that, you don't really get to the heart of who you actually are, which is a very beautiful, beautiful being. Every single last one of us, very beautiful being.
Wow. That's such a powerful note to end on. But yeah, that's really, really true. I totally agree. And yeah, I think with the whole kind of spiritual community as well, you know, there's this whole thing of like, we need to ascend, we need to become better, and this and more giving and this and that. But I think I completely agree with you. It's kind of like, no, you just need to go in and find out who you really are and pick apart all those things that are people have placed onto you, you have placed onto you, and just like, you know, show yourself in the flesh kind of thing, and be like, this is me. Yeah, totally. Right, so I really want everyone to experience your powerful energy work. So before we go into that, is there anything else you want to say or finish on just before we do that?
Well, I do teach classes. I teach how to harness energy. My system's called Coco 33. You can find that on my website, emmieevolving.com. I also do live streams very often. You can find those on my YouTube channel, which is also Emmie Evolving. I'm on Facebook, Instagram, everything across the board is Emmie Evolving. So if you want to find me, Google Emmie Evolving.
Oh my God. And I have to say, with your I mean, your energy work is just off the chart, but also your tarot readings that you do. Wow. I feel like you've literally been giving me personal readings for the last like 5-6 months, even though they're, you know, based on the science, but they're so accurate. And you really, because I watch quite a few like online, I'll just go through a few of them, whichever one comes up on the, you know, in the recommended YouTube links. And it's kind of like, no, they kind of touch on things, but it's not very in depth. But your readings, because you combine them with cards, but also your claircognizance and clairsentient, and you know, your other abilities that you have, is like combining those together. It's just like, wow, it's so powerful, and it always resonates with me. And then I see it kind of play out in the real world, and I'm like, oh shit.
Oh, yeah, I actually, I don't even consider myself a tarot reader or a card reader. The funny story is I have like really bad ADHD, and ADHD gives you the ability to exist multidimensionally. So I actually just use the cards to focus all the information, because I'm constantly bombarded with information. And without the cards there, I'm like, stop. Too many people talking at once. You're giving me a headache. And then I shut down. But with the cards there, I'm like, that you guys, you see this? And yeah, it still really boggles my mind, in a good way, when people tell me, like, it feels like you're doing a personal reading. I'm kind of just sharing, I'm like having an ongoing conversation with all these guides and stuff. And it's like, I'm just recording it. And I don't know the accuracy. I'm just kind of like, okay, well, this is the information. I said I wasn't going to edit it. And that's why it's so important for us to not edit ourselves. Because if I edited myself, 90% of the reading would, I'd be like, girl, you cannot say that. You don't feelings. Don't say that. And there's times you see and hear me say that on the videos. So like, I don't want to say this. It's going to hurt someone's feelings. And then, you know, the angels and guides are like, you promised you wouldn't edit, that you would love people enough to let them decide what resonates and what they would take and how they would use the information. I'm like, oh, I guess. Yeah.
Oh wow. Yeah, and you also do the live sessions on Sundays, which are again really just so powerful and so interesting to experience for anyone who might want to try any of this. But one thing I wanted to ask you is, how do you know when this kind of new energy coming through that you can kind of work on with people? So for example, with a new moon, sometimes you'd have a session where it's going to be like new moon energy coming in, or Lionsgate energy. Do you receive like a download of that, and then you can utilize that energy and spread it to people who might need that?
Yeah, I'm constantly downloading. I don't track lunar cycles or any of that. What ends up happening, I love Archangel Michael. He's almost always with me, and he's constantly saying all these things like, oh, you should consider, like giving me suggestions. I'm like, I don't want to. I don't want to. Everything he says, I don't want to. And then for days he'll do this. And then the weekend will come and I'll have a conversation with a friend and they'll be like, oh, you know, the moon is now blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, oh, Michael. Okay, that's going to be the expedite. So it's really a process that I go through. And I think maybe that's really important for people to recognize. I'm not just like, yes, the angels have told me, so this is what they're doing. No, it's like, I don't want to. No, that doesn't make sense to me. And it's days and days and days before I'm like, okay, I guess. And then when it actually is time to do the expedites, I can feel it in my heart, like, okay, this was right. This is what people needed the most. And I'm live doing expedites every Saturday and Sunday. And that's a really good time if you want to experience personalized energetic work, a personal reading. That's a very good time, because the expedites are like very, very minimal fees. So that way people who don't have the huge budget to have a private session can still experience things, can still get assistance. And that's really why I go live every weekend. So that people who are curious or are working with a limited budget can still get the help that they're wanting or needing.
Yeah, and I find that so it's so wonderful of you to actually to do that, because I know obviously with energetic work, it requires a lot of your own energy and, you know, working with so many different things. So it's so good that you actually do these sessions where a lot of the times you would offer them for free, you know, to people, and you have these games and things like that. And that's just, it's not something that you see every day. And I just want to say that that's, it's really, really kind of someone to actually offer that, their work like that for free. And, you know, that's, yeah, I've definitely been able to experience all of those different types that you offer. So it's been really, for myself, I've been able to feel it. And it's just, yeah, incredible. From the very first one that you gave me, it was like, wow, I was completely mind blown. And my head was just like, I mean, because you do purge after that, don't you? You have this kind of purging a few days after you do the energy work, because it's something that's so new that's introduced to your body that you just I guess your body's trying to fit that energy in, so it's doing all this purging, and it's really interesting to see how the body is reacting to that new energy that's entered your field. So yeah.
Yeah. So when I do the work, I don't use my personal energy. I like to keep everyone's energy very contained. I don't like to mix people's energies. I do use universal energies. And what ends up happening, from my understanding, creation always seeks equilibrium. So when you push more energy, it doesn't matter what kind of energy, when you push more energy into a field, then it creates a higher concentration of density within that field. And so just like with osmosis, it will let energy out. And so because the energies that I push in are much higher frequency, it tends to dominate the space, and the lower frequencies get purged out. And it's just like detoxing. When you start juicing, the toxins and things that were stored get pushed out, it gets processed, and oftentimes you'll experience flu-like symptoms. It's really interesting that people, when I first began really consciously doing this, I didn't expect an actual physiological detox, but that's what happens. And it's just been really fascinating seeing it. Like I have clients who, you know, they're a little bit skeptical, which I love when people are skeptical, because I don't want you to just believe and believe. You have to question, you know, question me, question everybody, question everything, question. And I have clients who, they're curious, and they'll get like a massive amount of energetic work done. And I'll tell them, okay, you might experience flu-like symptoms and this and that. And I tell them, don't fight it. If you have emotions rising up, old memories, allow yourself to feel it, because if you fight it, you create more blockages, and it prolongs the purging process. And so certain clients will be like, Emmie, I've had this weird flu since you did the work 3 weeks ago. And I'm like, are you emotional? And they're like, well, yeah, but I'm dealing with it. And I'm like, are you telling yourself, stop being this way? And they're like, yeah, I mean, that's old stuff. And I'm like, so you're creating blockages. This is what I told you not to do. And then I tell them, as soon as you allow yourself to just feel these emotions that you needed to feel back then, but you didn't have the luxury of processing when the event happened, let yourself feel it. I promise you won't be sick anymore. And I kid you not, the next day, oh my gosh, all my flu symptoms went away this morning. I'm like, did you allow yourself to cry? And they're like, yeah. I'm not lying to you. I told you. So it's amazing how emotions can really affect the physiological process. And, you know, we don't give our emotions enough credit. It's a very potent energy. It truly is.
Yeah. Yes, definitely. Wow, there are so many more questions that I want to ask you, but I don't want to keep you too long. I know you have loads of work to do. So can we experience a bit of your energy healing? And then, yeah, I think that might be it for tonight.
Sure. Do you want me to do a group thing, or do you want to pick someone from the audience? Should we do
I think probably a group one will be good. So for everyone listening, or who might be listening in the future on the podcast platform. So yeah.
Okay, let's go ahead and do this then. Okay. I'm just going to get a song for myself, just because it makes it easier for my mind to focus. Okay. So if you are wanting to experience this, please just have a seat, breathe very deep and very slow. My energy will always honor your sovereignty. It won't enter your space without permission from your highest self. So just breathe. If you can take ownership, and this doesn't mean you're going to.
Sorry. Just
Let me just get myself. Inhale the light of your truth. Exhale the darkness of your doubt. We're just going to do a mild clearing and rejuvenation. How do you feel?
much more relaxed. Wow.
So I did a clearing and then a rejuvenation and fortification of everyone's auric shield.
Wow, it's so nice because now that I'm becoming more sensitive, I can feel the energy a lot more than before. Before I was like, I'm not feeling anything, and then now I'm like, okay, yeah, okay. You have to be quite sensitive to it, but yeah, I definitely felt like this just rush of energy, and it was like I keep seeing like pink or purple or something, like a purplish color. Yeah, that was pretty cool. Yeah.
That's cool. You're seeing colors. So, yeah. Is it like a pale purpley lavender?
Yeah, exactly. Something like that. It was like a pink, purple. Yeah.
Yeah, those are the frequencies that I'm using. So
Really?
as I'm wrapping it around your shield, injecting it into certain key locations, harnessing meridians, things like that. And yeah, because frequency can either be seen, heard, or create form. And you're seeing it.
Yeah. I'm getting better. Oh, wow. Okay, I just want to say for anyone who's driving, probably should have said that before, but probably not to attend to the healing, but that's fine. For anyone listening, you can try that later. But yeah, wow, this has been so wonderful talking to you, Emmie. And I've wanted to ask you these questions for such a long time, so it was so nice to finally get to ask you about everything and how you started this. And I just find I find everyone's journey is so interesting, especially going into this sort of field. You know, one, it's so challenging, and two, there's just so many things that are constantly, you know, keep updating, because you're constantly learning new things and new things and new things, and it's yeah, it's really cool to find out how other people like you have began doing this work and are still doing it. So yeah, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much for having me. It's always a treat to be able to interact with you and share thoughts with you. It truly honors me to be a part of your journey in any way, shape, or form. Thank you.
Thank you. And I just want to say something. So last year when I first met you, you were doing these really beautiful aura paintings that you did. And I just want to show mine because I don't know if you can see it properly, but yeah, so the information you gave me for this, which I'm actually going to put up on my Instagram. So if anyone wants to hear it, they can go on my Instagram, Bridging the Realm. It was really potent, but it started to kind of come true or come into manifestation now. But I cannot tell you how much it's helped me when I was feeling low or not sure of my not sure of my vision or just unsure of what I'm doing. And just hearing you say these things, because they resonated so deep with me, and it's almost like I tried to create this vision of what I wanted to do. But I didn't share it with anyone because it was kind of like, it's just my ideas and my thoughts. And you picked up on that so well with this painting that you did. And it was kind of like every time I forgot why I'm doing what I'm doing, I'll listen to it and then I'll be like, oh, okay, yeah, I remember now. And it's so incredible how you did that. I still, for me, it's still like, wow. Yeah, but that was really incredible. And I hope that you do them again in the future. I know you're not doing them right now, but maybe some point in the future for other people who might want to experience them.
Oh my gosh, you are so amazing.
So cool.
You have no idea how much you've affected me on my journey as well. And I actually was just thinking about those paintings literally last night.
Really?
I was thinking about them last night and I was like, I don't really want to do the paintings again, just because I never truly understand the value of what I'm doing, how it affects other people. And Michael was telling me, you need to begin painting again. I was like, I don't really want to. I don't think anyone really benefited from that. It was just paintings. And he was like, so yeah, I mean, really, it's more than just me doing things for others. Like when you guys give of yourself, fully, wholeheartedly, it always returns back to you. I gave of myself to you in that painting fully, wholeheartedly, foregoing any kind of like, oh my gosh, what if she thinks I'm weird? What if she just like, this is all BS? And I gave the message as it was given, and now it's returning back to me in the confirmation that you've just given me right now. It's beautiful. It's beautiful. Everything you put out into this world always comes back to you. And if that's the only reason for you to always practice compassion, kindness, patience, grace, then do it. There's nothing wrong with that being the reason why. What we need to do is experience more of that and help other people to be inspired. It doesn't matter your reasoning. It really doesn't matter, because after a while, regardless of what your reasoning is at the start, it will just be a part of you, and you'll just be a kind, compassionate, loving, patient person. Doesn't matter. You're not going to be like 5 years later, at the start it was selfish. It's not going to matter. This is just what you are. This is what you become known for. And so it's thank you.
Thank you. No, yeah. But yeah, I'm going to put a post on Instagram because I really want people to kind of see it. And it's still, it puzzles me because again, at the time, not much was really manifesting. And it was almost like you were kind of almost like reading my blueprint that I've created in my mind of what I want to do and who I want to be. And you almost like picked that up and put it on this, painting, and explained it really well. And I was like, wow. And only now, since kind of this year, it started to kind of manifest on. Yeah, I'm just mind blown with that. So yeah, thank you so much, Emmie. Yes, we should definitely do this again. We'll have another one because there's still so many questions I want to ask. But yes, for today, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Good night.
Bye.